Our story happens directly in the center of the spot that had unfortunately transformed into a mass grave for endless individuals. A lot of life was lost in the tenacious journey for an unwinnable conflict. The main thing the survivors needed was to get by. Past this fundamental sense, there didn't appear to be some other reason in this world. One individual continued on through unspeakable misfortune and turned into our story's primary hero. With 98 failed missions added to his repertoire, he figured he could at last be toward the finish of his long excursion. As he strode close to the wellspring of an extraordinary, brilliant light, the giant warrior entered the chamber to wind up facing an impressive gathering of sentinel golems. He couldn't resist the opportunity to contemplate whether this was actually the 20th mission. A dull passage shows up behind this imposing column of golems, making our hero keep thinking about whether these sentinels were watching over a more significant course. With a look of resolve in his eyes, our legend began to draw his weapon. He knew that going into the room would require a test from the glimmering watchman golems. A ridash showed up in his grasp as he called forward his weapon. The watchman's eyes gleamed with a new force when they looked along the edge, like they had quite recently emerged from hibernation with a purpose. These tremendous animals began to march toward our legend, their huge weapons raised. They started their coordinated attack, attempting to take him out. Fortunately, our main character's deftness helped him out, as he had the option to evade the destructive blows with D moves. This ended up being the ideal chance for a reprisal. With steadfast purpose, our legend cast the Mark of Death spell promptly over the guardian golem. An otherworldly circle with the troubling skull image out of nowhere showed up. With the assistance of this vile seal, our legend changed into a searing dim quality, surpassing the watchman golems in speed. Utilizing this speed increase, he delivered the final blow to win. The gigantic watchman's body had a colossal expanding wound from the attack. He delivered with a satisfied grin all over. Our legend purposely put some distance between himself and his rival after this effective strike. He realized that everything had worked out as expected. When you deal harm to a foe who has been marked with the Mark of Death expertise, you will perceptibly expand the harm dealt by 100%. Once one of the guardian golems was crushed, the other watchman lurched forward, taking steps to destroy our legend. He was as insignificant as a bug in the eyes of these tremendous beasts. However, terror did not stop him. In midair, our legend utilized a method known as the Evening of Death to saturate his weapon with a threatening dim quality that was intended to counter the sacred creatures. Slowly, the golems that guarded the region were completely immersed in darkness. This dim cloak gobbled up the brilliant light that had once filled the sanctuary, leaving the blessed creatures neglectful of their surroundings. Exploiting this situation, our legend delivered a staggering blow that sent a gigantic rush of energy shooting out that could quickly wipe out a whole multitude of beasts. However, our legend didn't lose his cool. It soon became obvious that not even his enormous attack had harmed the guardian golems in the slightest. With astonishing exactness, the blessed animals charged bolts that were loaded up with unadulterated discharge and ice energy and shot them toward our main character. These bolts took steps to annihilate him, with each shot verging on brushing him. When this consistent attack continued, our legend realized he had to get a move on to avoid the coming peril. He jumped unflinchingly straight into the path of the advancing guardian golems, confronting them head-on. Our legend had the option to create afterimages that befuddled the golems due to his staggering speed. As a counter, one of the golems fitted a few bolts into its bow and fired them so fast they broke through the speed of light, obliterating pretty much every deception our legend had made. Our legend kept calm and collected despite the critical and serious contention. He even considered grinning and energetically insulting the watchman golem, saying that it would take more than simply their attacks to overcome him. However, his haughty look soon evaporated when a brilliant light appeared beneath him. Our legend discovered that an unexpected magic circle on the floor had laid out a trap that ensnared and completely immobilized him. By calling forth a tremendous mass of ice, the extraordinary speed he had flaunted around a few seconds earlier had vanished. Determined to get free, he gave it all that he had, slowly making the ice break. The legend was trapped, and the watchman golems moved toward him. As he battled to free himself, one of them was preparing to deliver a horrible blow with a tremendous lance. The cracks got more noticeable, but the ice didn't give in. Then, as he utilized another expertise, Evening Glow Obliteration, our legend's ice took on a profound dark red tint. He was liberated when a brilliant red light broke through the mass of ice trapping him. Our legend was freed by the attack, which also obliterated the Watchman Golem before him and unleashed the full power he had been holding back. Utilizing this ability also made his equipment change and improve, and he conceded that the conditions had nearly cost him. After investing a lot of significant effort fighting the Guardian Golems, our hero took the critical decision to end the contention with a single, wrecking blow. The showdown was about to reach its peak, as the dim, threatening quality around his SC turned out to be more volatile. The Watchman Golems readied their most powerful blows. Sensing that things were about to go crazy, weapons of mass destruction, bolts injected with strong energy, and seals were all prepared. Yet again, our legend fought back with a colossal forward step, gathering massive power to support his side strategy. Approaching the blow, our legend released his evening glow obliteration expertise, this time enhanced by a mind-boggling dark power. However, this time the Red Moon, a different expertise, boosted the powerful aura that surrounded him. Like the one that had loosened things up, the resulting cut had a much wider area of effect. The tremendous animals that had previously controlled the region were cut through like delicate butter, their bodies falling to the earth. As our hero landed, he was relieved to see that these formidable opponents had finally been defeated. He wandered further into this confounding area. As he pushed toward the room the watchman had been guarding, he felt something odd come over him and looked around. It seemed like another sanctuary, yet it felt surprisingly empty. He decided to approach the entryway at the far end, uncertain of what to do next. The enchanted circle drawn right outside the door started to glow as he got closer. Settled, our legend remained in the circle, curious to figure out what might happen next. A rueful smile crossed our legend's lips as he waited, contemplating whether this would be the run that saw him finish the game on his 99th attempt. Yet his anticipation was all ruined when he saw the notice that only one player out of 5 was on the enchanted circle. He had to confront the brutal truth that a group of 5 players was required to access the boss room. The warning informed him that he would die if he didn't meet this requirement. At that moment, all the battles and sacrifices he had made felt like they were vanishing. A brilliant light surrounded him, walling him in a barrier that wouldn't move, regardless of how diligently he tried. He cursed the silliness of this last essential in his dying breaths, but it was all to no avail. His body started to disintegrate, leaving him to question whether this was really the end. His demeanor changed when he realized that this was indeed the end. The game informed him that he had died as the last second counted down. Yet amidst the despair, a rune known as regression was activated. The 100th utilization of the rune would be ascribed to this last living legend, sending him back in time to the moment before the first mission began. Thus, the regression rune would evaporate, but our hero would once again begin his 100th regression. Before this, Korean royal residence right in the focal point of the city. The story opens on this day, which denoted the year's end. Many individuals assembled to commend the beginning of the new year. A dazzling blue quality encompassed the body of the individual. As the last 5 seconds of the year moved toward, his demeanor was obvious to see that he was awkward. This man got back to his previous life when he saw something. When he saw his hands shook as he understood that this was the prior second everyone was sucked into a Gotham game. This individual grasped his clenched fists, recalling that he had almost dominated the match being referred to. He was in the 20th round as of now. He envisioned how decent it is to have the option to stop time since there are presently only 2 seconds left before the calamity guarantees their lives. He likewise recalled what the past life framework had shown him following his death. This was the 100th time he had applied the relapse rune. It was at that point past the brink. The person, who will be our fundamental character, accepted that he would without a doubt complete the game as the last seconds of the year drew closer, since it had all the earmarks of being his last open door to relapse. Then, he readied himself for the looming occasion. Furthermore, Ma considered the last essential that he couldn't meet during the game's 20th round, and that was the explanation he expected to enroll the assistance of 4 additional people. Then, pondering who might be best for these jobs, he began to examine his environmental elements. A few moments preceding the commencement, an extra individual was shown. Now, this person was with his buddies, and they were in the core of the city and prepared to celebrate the new year, as they held up. One of his companions considered his post-graduation designs. The bear man contemplated whether he could simply function as a conveyance man. He posed his companion a similar inquiry. Then, it was spread the word about that this man's name was Emin. He answered the question with a grin. He expressed that he expected to turn into a crowd supervisor. When his companions heard him, they became confounded. They didn't accept that Emin treated this matter in a serious way. To Yanin's defense, since life is short, he must live it to the fullest. As these folks dealt with the way that they ought to keep away from Emin after graduation, a feeling of straightforwardness spread across their faces. Being connected with a hoodlum after that, the uncovered man was rarely great. He examined Yanin concerning what might befall his own bus following graduation. This question evoked a picture of a desperate and soon man in his viewpoints. Then, Emin giggled and said that he wouldn't surrender his van, not even subsequent to graduating. His companions joined in, light of the fact that they thought this was funny. This one even ventured to such an extreme as to say he could play with that person for whatever length of time he wanted. One of Yanin's companions revealed that he had quite recently seen the person. While they were talking about that van, RMC's body was overwhelmed in this splendid light. At a similar second, he relapsed back to his 100th opportunity in the similar 5 seconds. With a grin, Y acknowledged that his companion was right. However, something felt different as he fixed his look on the individual he had harassed all through their secondary school years. This confounded Emin. This man was not the similar transport he had realized. Mick now has a more assured demeanor all over, giving the feeling that he was more established. He even dared to give Emin a look. This individual proceeded to say that RMC was totally different from who he ordinarily was, since this was the first time RMC had acted in this manner. Human turned out to be extremely bothered. His companions mediated to stop him. Just as he was going to give him an example, they advised him that he would have numerous open doors later on, and that today was currently officially the principal day of the year. In the wake of hearing their comments, Yonin turned out to be more composed and chose to exonerate RMC for the day. Them four continued celebrating after that, trusting themselves to be adults. They likewise traded blissful New Year good tidings. Anyway, a voice that appeared to be strange unexpectedly showed up and said that individuals were captivating. The voice stated that, notwithstanding their obliviousness of their conditions, individuals thought for even a second to commend the new year. Since everybody had heard the perplexing voice, they endeavored to find its source. Then, there appeared a lofty animal with white wings and a white dress. This splendid light was likewise surrounding this one. Her voice had a similar quieting quality. This celestial-looking individual then smiled, entertained at how individuals were acting nowadays. She stated that, contrasted with different races, humans were the same as confined monkeys. The presence of this cryptic animal then excited every individual who had gathered in the focal point of the city. They even accepted she was excessively appealing, except for MC. That was no different for every one of them. When he saw the heavenly messenger, he accepted that she had at last emerged. Even after experiencing this scene multiple times, he kept on despising it. The holy messenger endeavored to control her chuckling, but she couldn't stop. She proceeded to state that, since they all had the advantage of being charmed by her appearance, they were all trash. The holy messenger proceeded to state that, since she didn't mean to be with them for a lengthy time frame, they ought to quit agonizing over these futile things. She was more captivated and grinned as she contemplated that, since these people could see her plainly, they must have the option to hear her well too. When part of the gang became ill of her snickering, he shouted at her and requested to know who she was. As a matter of fact, this person thought she was only cosplaying as a holy messenger. Mick didn't express anything while that person was complaining. The heavenly messenger smiled the same, but this time, she turned out to be extremely peaceful. Her face took on an evil demeanor as her eyes became red. She said this scene truly bothered me. The same person who had just been hollering at her had something happen to him. This one just rushed in the head. Standing close to him, the individual had blood all around his garments. His body began to shake too, and it took them a few seconds to realize what had actually happened. Then, there was an uproarious shout all through the area. Yon was among the folks who saw the episode and shouted, "What in the world was that?" The heavenly messenger has spoken, but her exquisite voice was gone this time. She then gave an admonition to all individuals, telling them not to ever try to talk nonchalantly to her strong self. She went on by saying that these individuals coming up short on power to represent any questions, they must likewise never act fiercely around her, or they will meet a similar end as the prior individual. The heavenly messenger proceeded to say that humankind as of now had a place with a far subpar race. As she kept on talking, when they got to the part where the heavenly messenger planned to explain to them why these things were occurring to them, now Herma could murmur. She declared to everybody that they would now play a game, proceeding, radiating a more joyful grin and energy. Consistently, on the one, their spirits will be taken to an alternate aspect to play a game for 20 rounds. She conveyed the possibility that right now people would only act in this manner. They would spend the next couple of long stretches of their lives focusing on completing the relegated responsibilities. They would be compensated and taken back to the real world in the event that they prevailed with regards to completing those journeys. A few people were confounded to hear this. They accepted that, after they completed the previously mentioned missions, their lives would be saved. Regardless of whether they could complete the journeys, not every person would have the privilege to endure. The heavenly messenger informed the people, guessing their thoughts, with a laugh. Hermic remained standing there while it turned out to be clear why just 50% of them were allowed to experience. The only individual with a created articulation was him. Everybody in his nearby area felt like their lives were going to end. The holy messenger proceeded to say that individuals ought not be too concerned, in light of the fact that she won't take them all. For this situation, RMC could see this was the 99th time he'd heard it. Then, it became clear that only individuals between the ages of 15 and 29 would be permitted to partake overall. As he was listening, RMC had the prospect that he had never imagined getting back to the same game more than once. One of the older individuals smiled and said he was protected. After hearing the news, individuals in the age bunch that was remembered for the game were then bothered by this action. He stated that it was practically identical to adding oil to a fire. Then, none of the men mediated to separate their contention. He advised these folks not to cause problems since they could become like the departed man. The holy messenger then expanded her wings and declared that it was the ideal opportunity for them to begin. She also revealed that approximately 1.9 billion individuals would play the game. As she informed the people that the explanation was finished, they could now move on to the genuine game. Her energy level increased. Then, this white light filled the entire space. Everything vanished except for the members' bodies. Armik was obviously missing. The heavenly messenger proceeded to say that the members had just entered a region known as individual spaces, which was only visible to them. She then provided the order for everyone to form their bodies to prepare for the spirit move. This particular face was like the way in which clients customize the characters that will show up in the game. They must make an educated decision since they only have one opportunity to do this. With respect to MC, he expected he would choose the same option as his previous relapse. Now, the appearance and qualities of his previous symbol were being selected. Even his in-game moniker was the same. The side was dark. Players were taken to something else entirely just a few moments after completing the customization. It was an open field. Here, the members' symbols gradually became fully awake. This specific look was the one that Mick repeatedly chose. He had blood-red eyes and dark hair. Additionally, his build was far taller than his actual height. It was also his 100th appearance in the game. He accepted that this was his true body since it was the same body from his previous relapses. He was not even expected to become acclimated to it. The symbols of other individuals were also brought into this new reality. Some of them were so shocked by their own individual customizations. Mick noticed that these folks deliberately caused their symbols to appear attractive. However, this was one of the initial mistakes that one could make. Strong for the weak in this other world, despite the fact that they stand out, it's easier to become a target. This was an expensive error, because an individual who dies in the game will also die in real life. Then, MC's attention was drawn to the individual he had been waiting for to appear. The bully who caused him so much wretchedness during his time in secondary school was, in all honesty, Hang Yangan. Blackie was somewhat let down, since he had guessed that Yanan would work on himself during the game. The Holy Messenger returned to greet the players after they had all been transported. She also noticed that these individuals appeared to become very attached to their new appearance. As she considered what these appealing and attractive faces would become after experiencing fear and hopelessness, she became excited. The people, who were all in spirit at that moment, were brought here. Additionally, there will be around 1.8 million members, which left some asking why they would just be able to observe a portion of it. The Holy Messenger laughed, believing that this dehumanizes individuals. When she revealed that there were different spaces that would accommodate all of the members, her disposition also changed. Different heavenly messengers were also continuing with the round at that moment. Now, without delay, the Holy Messenger began to reveal more insights about this game. As long as they could evoke it in their minds, players could access a specific kind of status window. This served as an illustration of its contents. The black side status window was the one that was before us. As the game was getting started, there isn't really anything to note here. The fact that he had lost all of his maximum level details from his past life made Mick moan. Did everyone see their status windows? The Holy Messenger asked. This serves as a reminder of how shabby they are, she said. All they needed to do was set stronger, to make it to the end, and finish the 20 rounds. The Holy Messenger revealed that the reward for achieving this accomplishment would be whatever one might desire. Furthermore, they won't need to pay for any of the games that are played. Others began to consider what it is that they actually wanted. That prize was extremely appealing. To get things moving, the Holy Messenger smiled and said that she had something small prepared for each individual today. When the players checked their inventories, they saw something interesting. One thing has now been embedded into it, an inconsistent rune. This rune is just meant to be used once. The Holy Messenger explained that, regardless of whether they were only at level 1, players could already use it. Initially, this was the only thing that was given to them. After they considered the word use, players could also eat this item. The first individual to use it was a young man who looked stunned by what he saw. The Holy Messenger then laughed again after realizing that a few of the players were not content with the results of the rune. She proceeded to state that, since this was their luck, there isn't really anything they can do about it, save accept it. Just as they were ready to jump into the real deal, she flicked her fingers. After explaining the runes all around, particles of light began to appear. A warning regarding the player's first mission was then sent to everyone. At the start of the game, it was something that players could kind of expect to run into. To complete the task, every troll must be killed multiple times. After this round, only 50% of all members overall would be allowed to continue. After a short while, the first troll appeared. When the players saw this, they said that it appeared to be a computer-generated simulation game. Then, the Holy Messenger advised everyone not to become so excited. The reason for this was that she had called forward an extraordinary number of them immediately. These light bars were beginning to fill the entire space. Then, the serenity evaporated from their faces when they saw the trolls' numbers before them. Individuals began to panic. The Holy Messenger, wearing a really threatening expression and a foreboding emanation, declared that 10,000 people and 50,000 trolls would participate in combat. They planned to fight to the death. The troll swarm began pushing toward the people when the statement concluded. These beasts moved at an exceptionally quick speed. A few players were unsure of how to respond. Anyway, there were noticeable strides as most of them stepped back. Waxa dashed into the fight, showing definitely no fear. The people behind RMC began to consider what this person was thinking. The troll's clothing was essentially too blissful. Dangerous careless A's formed expression evaporated as the beast drew nearer, replaced by this deadly expression. RMC jumped toward the troll and kicked him hard. As per Blackid, the initial feeling was essential when somebody was new to the gathering, and these folks were stunned by what he'd done a little while ago. His main objective was to leave a psychological picture of his solidarity in their minds, and disposing of the principal troll was the most effective way to do this. With that solid kick, the troll's body was pushed a few meters away. Then, RMC took the blade that the beast was getting a handle on. Beside that, there was another significant thing he expected to get in his mind. He really expected to show the troublesome flies areas of strength for how he was to keep them from overpowering him. That one got the Holy Messenger relegated to their gathering's consideration, which as of now seemed entertained by what RMC had displayed. With no other choice, Dark Zaid needed to play out somewhat before everybody. In a moment, the two trolls who surged towards him were sliced. Now, other players were interested to be aware, assuming Blackhead was really a spy or some likeness thereof. They likewise observed his moniker to be really great, and they contemplated that maybe these were the most fragile hordes they might have confronted. In light of the fact that RMC had shown his solidarity against the trolls, a couple of them grew careless, accepting that they would likewise experience no difficulty overcoming these beasts. Anyway, that soon changed on the grounds that one troll had the option to move toward this specific player. The previously mentioned most fragile crowds crushed them with a solitary assault. Finally, the reality of their problem set in. They truly shouldn't have loosened and figured they would have the option to get by here, and everyone began to disperse and escape for their lives. As the troll was killing that person, Armik had a top at what the others were doing. Among the things he named as the good tidings of Fiery Blaze was this scene. No one could at any point confuse this for a game any longer. As of now, individuals were thinking just about something single, and that was the means by which endurance was conceptualized. The light-hearted people at the head of the pecking order had become objects of recognition. When one saw this risk, one's most memorable sense was to escape carelessly. Dark Grass Cutter recollected that he had made a similar blunder the past time, and he didn't at last find some peace with the brutal reality until the subsequent relapse. And that was that an individual could never escape this aspect, regardless of how quickly they ran. This lady had no clue that there was an imperceptible wall keeping them from moving away from the trolls. By then, she ground to a halt and thought of her options. This situation served as a reminder for contemporary society since innovation made everything easily accessible to them. Their natural tendency to kill other living things was basically non-existent. A couple of them would be hesitant to take their first loss actually. Rethinking yourself in this game could end up being deadly because it could offer the beasts the slimmest chance to switch the situation and launch a counterattack. After a brief time, some of the individuals have gone beyond what is acceptable, yet things remain desperate for them. The Heavenly Messenger continued entertaining himself by watching the battle. Despite the fact that trolls are only somewhat larger than youngsters, players would still struggle to overcome them, especially when they attack in groups and wield blades. Anyway, since most of the individuals were having difficulties, she saw a particular individual, and the dark side was that she began to wonder why this human was acting this way. When the Holy Messenger kept an eye on him later, he found that RMC had already killed 70 trolls. She became bothered on the grounds that the framework could show this player's advancement to her, neither more nor less. Anyway, she decided to disregard the issue since she didn't think an honorable like her might want to watch out for a few ordinary citizens. The battle with these animals continued. Furthermore, a player would get experience points and objectives each time they crushed a troll, which would raise them to a higher level. Ultimately, in regards to MC's progression, he has now wiped out 7 trolls, and he continued to exhibit his exceptional abilities while dodging each weapon the troll was tossing. Now another crowd was charging toward him. Anyway, the Knife of the Dark Sea struck all of them with a quick and strong push. The blood of the beasts presently stained this person's hand, which made a couple of them back off from going after and approaching him. Anyway, RMC persevered in the attack without offering any genuine kindness. It only took one strike to take them out. As he looked for additional trolls to kill, his eyes became really threatening. Darkside likewise saw, yet again, that the trolls were getting some distance from him. As of now, he contemplated that he could utilize this chance to enjoy some time off. First, as no one was going after him, he checked that he was presently at level 4 by taking a gander at his status window. He has an additional 6 detail focuses too. A player's step up would grant them 2 extra detail points, and RMC applied fully to his nimbleness detail. The justification behind that was that this detail would accelerate his movement and assault, as well as increase his evade rate. Initially, nothing matters more than nimbleness. Darkside then contemplated that, given his ongoing pace of progression, the Holy Messenger would without a doubt see him. He considered the most effective way to wrap up the principal mission. Then, somebody tossed one orbiting blade, landing it on one of the trolls. Again, addressing the trolls, RMC asked whether they would genuinely cease from going after him. The trolls kept on remaining where they were, So this incitement ended up being inadequate. Blackie let out a moan after understanding this. He knew that he genuinely didn't have a choice. But RMC unexpectedly moved to vanish from his spot to get the blade he tossed on this troll. This person had already taken care of business across this gathering of trolls. It took these beasts a few seconds to acknowledge what had happened. Anyway, they were confronted with this horrendous round slice as they pivoted. They were undeniably separated in half. For RMC, killing the troll bunch has gotten it done. He progressed to another level. He was likewise educated by the framework that he had finished the essentials for the first mission. Then, a side of dark light encircled it. This demonstrated that he was done. Armik accepted that this was how things had always been. In the main round to stand out for the Holy Messenger, he only had to work a little harder. The framework then complimented him for completing the journey in their assigned zone first, and for being the primary individual to do so. Moreover, Dark Sickle won in front of the pack in each zone. He burned through 10 minutes and 21 seconds in all. This person was smiling with satisfaction since he had accomplished rank 1 once more. The fact that every mission would have a prize for the top 3 players will exhibit the value of this lowest rank. An uncommon weapon selection coupon was his award for finishing first in his assigned zone. In regards to the award for coming in first place across all zones, RMC got this extraordinary prize selection box. These things would without a doubt guarantee a significant advantage over other players, and Black City decided to use the weapon coupon first. The following uncommon weapon list he could choose from was shown to him by the framework. He felt embarrassed on the grounds that he had continued using these substandard weapons, yet he was still thankful that he had these at first. After that, RMC made a choice, and the stiletto was the weapon of choice for him. This was viewed as the best beginner's blade that anyone could hope to find. It likewise has an additional spryness detail and an assault force of 15. RMC threw the knife he had taken from the trolls. Subsequent to getting the thing, he planned to open the other rewards sometime later. Furthermore, the trolls continued to chase different players, while Blackie was busy exploring every one of the prizes he had gotten. This time, when RMC checked his status window, he saw something else. This man was making reference to the moniker Last Time Regressor, which he had recently been given. In his 99 attempts, he accepted he had seen nothing like this. RMC had additionally utilized his rune when they were approached to use it back then, and the rune he got was the Rune of Relapse, the same rune he got the first time around. This was what had brought him this far. The rune quickly left his body after utilization. The blunder that the rune was getting was the main thing that had changed, since he knew that he couldn't travel back into the past endlessly. RMC had guessed this. Furthermore, the rune has confirmed that this was the 100th relapse that stood out for Black City. He also acquired the moniker Last Time Regressor. Right now, titles are regarded as superordinate ideas in this game. Only at the 100th relapse of a particular individual could the Last Time Regressor be gotten, and it would enable the user to spend a moment in soul form. The user's well-being could then be restored upon his resurrection. Whenever from there on, he then recalled that the ability to miraculously come back to life must be viewed as a religious capacity. All things considered, only 30% of their well-being is restored. RMC contemplated that the title he was given this opportunity could really come in handy, and approaching something like this might work out great for him to dominate the game this time. Blackie went with the choice to place this title in private since it was extraordinary and gave off an impression of being very uncommon. This setting will protect this information from view by some other players or substances. With the supposition that different players who completed the mission ought to show up presently, Mech held out his hands. He was likewise inquisitive about Yanen's prosperity. He saw this person who was luckily hanging on as he checked out. Then, Blackie predicts that young men will likewise endure this cycle. A couple of additional minutes after the fact, there are numerous brilliant lights in the whole region. The Holy Messenger kept on noticing, smiling as she concluded why she viewed the front line as a little dull. It would appear as an ever-increasing number of individuals figured out how to kill 100 trolls. The general troll populace has really diminished. The energy of taking on a multitude of beasts had evaporated. Then, this heavenly animal communicated her lament for her disappointment. She guaranteed everybody that she would bring back the pleasant. Her harsh comments carried different survivors to tears. They comprehended that this would be dangerous. In the interim, the dead players' bodies have begun to vanish. This has been seen by additional individuals who have addressed why it is happening. Furthermore, another splendid light had been called forward while they were stressing over their partners and companions. Interestingly, there was no assurance of salvation. When one saw a brilliant light, another flood of trolls has begun to charge. The players' dread was now put on their faces. These were already exhausted from the last gathering. The heavenly messenger let them know that she had just filled 50,000 additional trolls, so these people could eat, while by uncovering her crazy face. With no other choice except for to battle, different players stood up to them head-on. The open, tranquil fields immediately slid into savagery. Beasts attempted their hardest to do their piece of the mission. Anyway, players all the while ground their teeth and figured out how to get by. As time continued, an ever-increasing number of individuals were completing the mission. Jan was likewise shown, despite the fact that he protected himself from the trolls' passes by involving others as safeguards. In the midst of urgency, extreme activities were vital. There were only 1,000 more members. Blacked Brown Nose just stayed there and shut his eyes. The whole time he had become burnt out on this scene. As of now, since this was his 100th game, passings from the game had been a typical event. It was illegal for previous members to help the individuals who were still finishing the mission. This holy messenger had continued to view it as entertainment. After a brief time, RMC opened his eyes. This happened because of their notice that all 143 members had already completed the mission. These sad individuals likewise figured out how to live, but they couldn't dispense with 1,000 trolls. Where had all the beasts gone? They pondered. As she declared that the mission was over, the heavenly messenger captured their entire attention. She then started expressing her regret to the unfortunate public, explaining that what was going to happen was just according to the game's standards. Their bodies also started to fade. These folks would eventually die. Some realizing they just had to kill a few more trolls, begged for another chance. Anyway, their cries went unanswered. At the end of the main game, this sacred being applauded. She shared with the survivors that they should all feel relieved that they had endured. She praised the surviving people while laughing. She also sent them her best wishes for success on their upcoming mission. Before the players' departure, the mission's results were shown. It was Mech who defeated all comers. In regards to other players, each of them has a captivating moniker. The system declared that Blackie had succeeded. He will also get 1,000 gold in addition to the 2 previous rewards. After receiving the gold, Mink was informed that once he achieved level 10, he could use the money to purchase certain merchandise. He also saw that more eyes were now deflecting from him, and that was his plan. He wanted to demonstrate to everyone that he is the primary. The Holy Messenger then interrupted, saying that she never figured the individual who would be ranked first would be within her usual range of familiarity. Then, she turned to face Blackie and asked him to answer her inquiry. This being addressed whether he had been given an area of strength and how he became so strong. She interrupted herself before she could ask more questions, realizing that this was a mistake. Then, Blackie ridiculed her and asked if she could look at his status window to see his force. The Holy Messenger lied about this information to leave dread. She acted like she could see the rune that was given to McTwo. Anyway, the person who just smiled at her and avoided answering her questions was the only one who knew that this was just a vindication. To improve things, Blackie moved toward her and requested some help. The Holy Messenger was starting to feel more and more whimsical in this situation. She was unaware that this man had spent 99 years in the same conditions. Then, raising his head, Meek expressed his disappointment with the prize he got for completing this mission in the lead position. He said they were too parsimonious. Everyone in the area was shocked by his statement. They were stunned that someone would even consider requesting extra compensations from this savage Holy Messenger. As expected, the Holy Messenger's attitude soured when she examined me concerning what he had just said. Anyway, even briefly, this scene didn't cozy dark side. He even consented to state exactly the same things he had said before. He leaned toward greater incentives. This Holy Messenger was slowly becoming disturbed with MC's pompous attitude. Yet, these two just stared at each other. In everyone's subconscious, panic was already setting in. Regarding this Holy Messenger, She questioned whether the fact that he placed first in the mission meant that this human already thought less of her. She found it unimaginable that a mere human would dare to set certain expectations of her. Then, as she prepared to explode him, she lifted her hand. But she stopped when she realized she had just used that authority before. Subsequently, she would not be able to kill RM. As she gazed at the dark sickle, another thought entered her mind. She knew that this should be adequate to eliminate him. The Holy Messenger continued repeating his demands as she moved slowly in MC's direction. She even got down to walk on the earth. She explained that, ordinarily, requests like that would be turned down immediately. Anyway, she told Blackside that she would consider it, and that would mean having private discussions. They could wait for them to return while others carried on. A few of them congratulated Blackside as they moved farther apart from the others. His celestial moderator truly made the arrangement. They were now curious about what kind of rewards he would get next, and young men were among those looking at MC's back. This person saw the look and gave it back. This baffled the young fellow who questioned whether he was missing something. However, then happily, Ma continued to walk. These two have already moved quite a distance apart from the other players. Meanwhile, now they were in the forest. The Holy Messenger then ordered Mick to move closer to her because she was getting tired of asking if he was still with her. She was already deriding people in her subconscious. She believed that this race needed to be chastised in order for them to appreciate it. She also called them absurd and insatiable. And since she wasn't even the one who set the prizes, she contemplated as she was walking that there wasn't really anything she could do about them. Furthermore, she planned to teach Dark Grasscutter since she believed that he had grown too greedy. The area where the system failed to get them was directly behind that stone. So, when they reached that point, she wanted to kill him. The Holy Messenger knew that if the authorities found that she had killed a member for her own reasons, there would be repercussions. But she was simply too upset to do anything right now. Moreover, she isolated Mick to ensure that there would be no observers and that this would really be an ideal arrangement. This Holy Messenger was so eager that she was smiling daredled. She believed that this individual should have just stayed quiet. She then turned to check the MC. She also asked about the kinds of rewards he expected to get. Anyway, when she gazed at Dark Grasscutter, all she saw was a fist traveling very rapidly toward her face. The well-earned blow had been delivered just as expected. I had been waiting for a fundamental hero like this. An example should be taught to those who showed an attitude, no matter their status as heavenly messengers or even gods. In a moment, this sacred being became heavenly. She arrived at the understanding that, according to individuals, she was not so strong and amazing. As of now, when she saw the brilliant blood that arose out of this, her appearance obscured. She addressed whether anybody had the daringness to contact her. She twirled around to accept the alternate way when it was clear. Anyway, no one is following her. She had previously neglected to focus on the Dark Grasscutter. RMC simply had to show up briefly to amaze the Heavenly Messenger. Side the Dark held onto one of her wings, and the Holy Messenger was right away frightened by this. She knew about the thing planned to happen. She actually shouted out and requested to understand how this human planned to treat her. However, and still, at that point, she beseeched him to stop. Also, the main issue was the means by which heartless RMC was. He tore the wings as though they were fragile, showing that he had no respect for her. The Holy Messenger was in such a lot of agony at that point that she almost dropped, and brilliant blood splattered everywhere. As the Blacks tore it considerably more, have any of you seen a winged heavenly messenger? It's as simple as that. He gave her a harsh look and advised her to quit being such a complainer. Darkseid forged ahead, grabbing up one more wing. The heavenly messenger shouted as he pulled this one again. Now every wing was finished. Blackie commented that she would no more have the option to pursue. This is the Holy Messenger hurt by this feeling? He asked too. She normally answered with a yes. It felt like her body had recently lost an appendage. Ormic then, at that point, unveiled that she would have been the one representing these sorts of questions. In 5 additional minutes, had her arrangement succeeded, she would have been chuckling. The Holy Messenger then, at that point, endeavored to disprove these declarations, proclaiming that he had freaked out at that point. The disguised blade underneath the wings was uncovered by Dark Sickle. He stated that this Holy Messenger would have utilized this weapon to betray him, and RMC checked the Holy Messenger's goals. When she became quiet, yet she continued endeavoring to arrange right out of the situation. Then, with a grin, Blackie illuminated her that he could guess by the expression all over that she didn't actually have to lie. He called the Holy Messenger Beryl too. When Beryl heard this proclamation, she became befuddled. She then asked regarding how RMC knew her name. This person, anyway, just answered that she wasn't exactly needing to realize. He pulled his as-of-late gained knife from the capacity region. At a similar second, Beryl went ballistic when she saw this. She addressed why RMC had unexpectedly taken out his weapon. She then, at that point, took steps to utilize her expertise to blow RMC's brains out. She said that all it would take was an easy task of her fingers to destroy things for him. Anyway, Darkseid was at that point mindful that she was presently not ready to utilize the said expertise since she had recently utilized it. This was likewise the cause of his expanded confidence. As far as it matters for her, Beryl could grind her teeth. Now she had no place else to turn. Anyway, this holy messenger continued attempting. She proclaimed that her partners would get payback on Dark Grass Cutter and that different heavenly messengers would be aware assuming she was killed. The main issue was that RMC knew that all heavenly messengers are narcissistic braggarts who don't give in about others' undertakings, and it wouldn't make any difference to them on the off chance that any of them kicked the bucket or not. She endeavored to convince RMC not to execute her as he was going to do so. She declared that he wouldn't acquire a single thing from doing this. Besides, Blackside would not be able to venture out back to his home. Anyway, as recently referenced, he was at that point mindful that these explanations were generally false. In regards to the last proposition, the Holy Messenger stated that she could give him every one of the information. This man expected to finish every mission, except it wasn't exactly important for Dark Sickle. He had proactively gone over everything multiple times over, and the encounters had an enduring effect on him. Moreover, he might have essentially tormented her until she spat out every last bit of her insight, assuming that he had required data. Following the statement, the blade on RMC's hand struck her in the chest, stunning the Holy Messenger. This is an immediate admonition that individuals ought to practice intense watchfulness since they could commit errors when they pick some unacceptable individual. The second the knife was eliminated from her body, Entombment dropped to the ground. Then a notice from the framework showed that RMC had quite recently vanquished a Holy Messenger. Furthermore, he was the principal player to make this move. He was compensated by being named the primary Holy Messenger Slayer. Besides, 2 items showed up on his hands. Holy Messenger's blood was the name of one of them, and the Rune of Slaughterer was the name given to the red rune. Black applied the rune immediately, leaving an engraving on his body. Getting back to the title of being the primary Holy Messenger Slayer, this multiplied the player's complete details. Then RMC reviewed that during his 13th relapse, he had found out about the advantages of killing Holy Messengers. Interestingly, he claimed his revenge on one of them, and the articles emerged. In regards to the Butcher rune, likewise called the Rune of Slaughterer, its impact was to build all details by 1% each time an objective was killed, up to 100%. Blackie smiled, recalling his freshly discovered belongings. Each prize was at that point equivalent to a solitary thing. He accepted that after discovering that he had proactively gotten another rune, different Holy Messengers would have been taken. Stomach muscle. His demeanor suddenly changed when he realized that he had killed Beryl for another explanation, and that was to get this item that had a brilliant gleam around it. This was the blood of the Heavenly Messenger. This consumable thing can possibly change the client into a collector. The player needed to meet a base-level necessity. As the main essential at level 10, each player in this game can get a class. There are 30 unmistakable classes on the whole, and exchanging classes is simple. The main thing left for the players to do is get a class change thing. It's normally gotten naturally by hunting or meeting simple prerequisites.
And that's where we're going to pause the story for today. But honestly, this is only the beginning. From here on, the stakes get higher, the enemies become stronger, and the secrets behind everything start to unfold. Our hero has already taken the first step into a world filled with danger, betrayal, and unbelievable power. But the real challenges are still waiting ahead. Now, before you leave, if you enjoyed this recap and want to see more stories like this, Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. It really helps the channel grow, and it lets me know that you guys want more manhwa recaps like this one. And if you want me to upload the second parts of this story, then go down to the comments and type the words, Part 2. The more people who comment it, the faster I'll bring the next part to the channel. Also, let me ask you something interesting. Imagine you suddenly woke up tomorrow, but not in your world. Instead, you find yourself inside a manhwa or anime universe. Monsters exist, magic is real, and everyone has some kind of special ability or system. What kind of power would you want? Would you choose something insanely overpowered like time manipulation, where you can stop time whenever you want? Or maybe shadow powers, where you can control an army of shadows like a true shadow monarch? Maybe you'd prefer something like infinite leveling, where the stronger enemies you defeat, the stronger you become. Or maybe you'd go for something completely different, like the ability to copy other people's abilities. Or even the power to see the future before it happens. Personally, I think the most dangerous ability in these worlds isn't always the strongest power. Sometimes it's intelligence, strategy, and patience. Many of the strongest characters in manhwa don't just win because they're powerful, but because they understand the world around them better than everyone else. So I'm really curious. If you had the chance to live in a manhwa world, what ability would you choose and why? Let me know in the comments. I read a lot of your replies and some of your ideas are actually really creative. Also, another quick question for you guys. Do you prefer long full recaps like this, where the entire story is explained in detail? Or do you prefer shorter and faster recaps that get straight to the action? Your feedback actually helps me decide what kind of videos to make next for the channel. And one more thing. If there's a specific manhwa, manga, or anime that you want to see a recap of, write the name in the comments as well. I'm always looking for new stories to cover, especially hidden gems that not many people know about. Anyway, that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. I really appreciate your support. Hopefully you enjoyed the recap, and hopefully I'll see you again in the next video. Until then, take care, stay awesome, and get ready for the next part of the story.